What's going on, everybody? So if you watched my last video on the 540, you'll know that we fit the wheels and then immediately blew a radiator hose. So I did a little research, not really research, but I had a lot of people reach out to me, especially Christian Stash Cam reached out to me and actually kind of put this idea in my head that I didn't even think about. So I was wondering how this clutch fan hit the hose, and this moves, but this actually moves it further away from the clutch fan. So I don't think it's this, though I am gonna get the clips to actually mount the radiator. I have a box of them. I don't know why it doesn't have those. But he brought to my attention that on M60s, the motor mounts notoriously go bad, obviously. A lot of torque here, not a lot, but you know, in terms of old BMW. And he said that a lot of times the motor mounts will go bad and the motor will kind of, you know, when you floor it, it'll kind of lift, and as it lifts, or maybe not lift, but it moves. When it moves, you get the motor going closer to the clutch fan, and I think that that is actually what happened here. I'm gonna get on there and really look at them, but I believe we got a motor mount issue. And I just so happen to have an upper radiator hose and both motor mounts. So like I said, I got a lot of maintenance stuff for this car that I've kind of been sitting on for a while, and I was all gonna do it at once. Got a little lazy, but I figured what better time to do my motor mounts and my radiator hose than when both of them need to be done, because I believe the motor mounts caused my radiator hose failure. So I'm pretty stoked I have these so I can just hammer this out. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna do some motor mounts on this M60, and we're gonna do a radiator hose on this M60. Radiator hose is gonna be a 3-second job, but the motor mounts are gonna be a little pain in my ass. If you don't know, these cars are notorious for, not notorious for, but a lot of E34 owners, 540 owners, 530 owners mention how big of a pain in the ass the motor mounts are on this car, and I can immediately see that just kind of getting under here and looking, because you don't really have much room. So this is the hard one right here, the driver's side, and then the passenger side one should be super easy, just like an M50. You could reach everything easily. This one doesn't look horrible. There is some cracking in it, but the driver's side one looks a fair bit more worn. I guess I won't really know till I pull them out, but yeah. And actually, if you look under here, it might not even be the motor mount itself's fault. It's missing one of the studs. It's probably gonna be really hard to see. It's missing one of the studs. These have 2 studs, and the other stud is actually loose. I just noticed as soon as I went under here. So this motor mount's not even tight. So it probably isn't horribly bad, but if I have them, I'm gonna do them. But that's probably the culprit right there, actually. The frickin' motor mount's not even loose, or not even tightened down, which is really stupid on my part. I should have checked that. That's ridiculous. So I have high hopes that that will be my issue here. Hold on. Yeah. I think we might have already found my issue, but I'm gonna do the motor mounts anyway. I'm gonna go through the tribulations and the trials of a motor mount job on an M60, and I'll probably never want to do it again. So shouldn't be too bad, though. I got a few tricks up my sleeves. But let's get into this. Let's get this thing fixed up and back on the road now that it looks good. So yeah, they weren't kidding. This is a pain in the ass to even think to how I'm gonna do this. So I think what I'm going to do is actually unbolt the alternator. I do have a belt, so I'll probably just do a belt on it while I'm at it. But I see 2 bolts for the alternator. There might be one on the top that I'm gonna have to get to. But I think I'd be better off just pulling the alternator out, because then I can come from the bottom and wrap over and get to that top one. I've heard people say they use extensions and U-joints from the top. I just cannot see the top of the mount. I really have no idea where I'd need to go with that. So I think I'd rather just do the alternator way, which does suck, but I don't know. I think it might just make my life easier here. I don't know. Might have to do a little bit more work to get there. So I do want to start with this side, because that side will be easy. So I know I'm not gonna have issues there. But if I get defeated by this side, then I'm not gonna do that side. I don't think I'll get defeated here, but we'll see what it's like getting this alternator off, and then we'll kind of go from there. I gotta pop this belt off. One of these has the tensioner under it. I gotta check. So I'm gonna kind of work at that. It's gonna be kind of hard to set up the camera, but so I just could not figure out what to do. The alternator I unbolted, but it really can't move unless you pull off like whatever the bracket is on the bottom of the oil filter housing. So I said to hell with it. Alternator's still there. I jacked up the motor, and my motor mount actually fell apart. so you can see the top is still in there. So good thing I decided to do this, because these are shot and there is fluid inside of them. But now where I'm at is I have a lot more room. I can't really get anything from down here. I'm gonna try to do some extensions from the top, but now I at least can see it from the top. So I think we're gonna be better off. I should be able to figure out how to make something work, but this is still a huge pain in the ass. I mean, like, I'm struggling to figure out what will work here. We got it. We got it, guys. Oh my God. All right, so here's the trick. Undo the bottom ones, jack the motor up. Jack it up high until your clutch fan's hitting your shroud. And then here is the trick. 17 with one swivel and then tons of extensions. And you can come in right through here, get that swivel on there, get your ratchet on there, and then you can get it right like this. You need to jack the motor up. That's the only way I was able to access it. When the motor's down in place, you can't even see it. So some people remove this. You don't got to do that. That was easy. It wasn't even that tight. So this is your tool right here. So now I'm gonna eat lunch because I'm starving. But you can see here, destroyed, absolute carnage. Whereas this looks a lot nicer. So between this and the bottom ones being loose, I would say that is my issue with my motor moving and my fan popping my hose. I mean, I can't even believe how destroyed this is. So, and we're in. So I got the mount in. So basically, how I said to get it out doesn't necessarily work because you can't really tighten the top down without the bottom in place. So what I did, I found the sweet spot was, since you have better access to the top bolt when the motor is raised, I put the mount in place and I had the motor raised with the top nut started, and I had it raised just enough to where the two threads at the bottom of the mount were in the holes so that it couldn't spin. So it was still raised, but the mounts were in the holes. So then I used the same extension and I tightened the top all the way down. Then when I finished that, I lowered the motor and then I did the bottom too. I think that is the best way to do it. So ignore my alternator job. Now I just gotta put those bolts back in. That was a waste of my time. And then we can go over to the other side, which again, should be quick. So this did in fact suck. Everyone always talks trash about the motor mounts on this car. Definitely a pain in the ass. But I think the way I did it is you're gonna find will be the easiest way to do it, as long as you have all these extensions. All right, I'm finished with this side, all done there. Got my alternator back on, and now we head over to the passenger side. And right there is my nut, so that should be very easy with an extension and a swivel. I'm gonna get that, and then we're gonna raise it, undo it from the bottom, and pop that out. This should be very quick and easy. So this one isn't nearly as bad, but it actually is cracked on the bottom. I don't know if that's, honestly, I don't know if that's from the way I'm doing this, where I'm lifting one side and leaving the other bolted down, or if that's from probably driving it with a blown motor mount on that side all this time. Probably that. But yeah, this one wasn't too bad. Honestly, it probably could have even, well, that's pretty bad, but aside from that. So there's the new one. I'm gonna pop that in. This side, like I said, super easy. And the motor mounts are done, and now it is time to replace my mangled coolant hose. Very easy. I already have the replacement right here, so I'm gonna snag this thing out real quick, and then we gotta go to the store, get coolant, and fill it up with coolant. The new hose is in, and I actually came to find my radiator was out of the bottom holes. I got the clip here, and what else? Because I tried to spin the fan, and the fan was hitting the radiator. The radiator was way out of place. But now with the motor mounts, the new hose, and the radiator back in place, you can see the distance between them, the fan and the hose. It's, you know, a good ½ inch. Pretty much. Before, I mean, we were talking millimeters and it was even hitting it. So I don't know necessarily, I don't know what was the main component that was out of place, but it's back in place now. So we are good to go. I'm gonna go get some coolant, fill this thing up, and yeah, and I also Even hooked back up my alternator cooling duct. It was sitting there hanging down, it wasn't hooked up. Got that hooked up, so now my alternator's gonna be nice and cool. I'm excited. Fixed a lot of kind of wacky stuff that was wrong with this thing, so I'm pretty stoked. I gotta get this out of the way. It's about to hit the fan. But yeah, I'm gonna go get some coolant. I'll be right back. All right, I got my coolant. I always use the Prestone antifreeze coolant, the 50/50, ready to use. These E34s don't need blue. I put blue in my M3s. I think blue's a myth. You heard it here first. Say what you want about that, but I've used this and I've never had any issues. But so the cooling system on this car is similar to, I think, the M30s. They got the reservoir up here, which I believe is self-bleeding. So pretty much I left the car up in the front just to get that thermostat higher. I'm gonna pour it in until I believe it starts to kind of pour out from this little breather hose that goes around to the top of the radiator. That's, I believe, how this goes, and then I think that means it's done. So I'm just gonna pour and kind of see what happens here and make a mess too. Yep. Pretty much what I'm doing is filling it, squeezing the hoses until that little hole from that breather line has coolant coming out of it. And I'm just about there. I think I'm gonna fill it a little bit more. The reservoir itself is full, and then I'm gonna turn it on with this open and see if it rushes through. I'm gonna turn the heat on full blast so that everything opens up. And then yeah, pretty much from there. But you kind of want it to have coolant coming out when you squeeze these hoses before you even turn the car on. So I think I'm gonna go a little bit more here and overfill it. Heat on full and see what happens to the level. See if any coolant comes out. There was some water coming out, it stopped. So I'm pretty much sure I just have to wait till it gets to operating temp and see if water starts flowing through, or I might have to top it off. I'm gonna leave this off for now and see what happens. So on these, if you rev it, then you'll see what happens here. And that's the self-bleeding right there. As you rev it, it'll push out air until it's a stream. So once it's a stream, you know it's bled. So this thing's good to go. So I'm just gonna let it get to temp. Once we get close, then I'll cap it off and then we'll go on a drive and I'll make sure the temp gauge stays. But that's the self-bleeding right there. I just realized I'm kind of a dumbass. I said how I had the car in the air. On these cars, you don't want that because the reservoir's in the back. That's for the M50 cars where everything's in the front. So ignore that, leave it on the ground as it is. But I don't think it really bothered anything. I think it's still bled out fine, so I think we're good. Just let it idle, make sure it holds temp, and then we're gonna go drive it. It's looking like we're good to go here. I've driven it probably about 20 minutes now, and she seems to be good. So, successful job. No fan hitting my hoses, no overheating. The motor's nice and in place now. I'm happy, so I'm gonna bring this thing home and go wash my E36 so I don't have to worry about this thing anymore. She's good to go for now. Still gotta do some seals. I gotta do valve cover gasket, oil pan gasket, all that stuff. That'll be in a later video. But otherwise, ambulance is coming. Otherwise, yeah, we're good to go. So she made it back, no overheating, no leaks, drives good, looks good. I'm very happy with the 540 for the first time in a long, long time. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed my little mishap here. I'll see you in the next one.